people ignore it, and they don't think about it. And I think that we're not, diligent enough to, it's like break the cycle, right? It's like my kids, I make them wear hearing protection, like they understand hearing protection. Before I got into the business, I didn't know. My parents never said I needed to protect my ears, and that I might get tinnitus, and that I might, it wasn't even a thought.
You're listening to Creatives Prevail, unraveling the stories of creative professionals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creatives Prevail. I'm your host, Mike Zimmerlich, and this is a panel recorded at the NAMM Show in 2026 titled Keep Your Edge with In-Ear Monitors and Hearing Protection. Now, I know hearing protection isn't always the most interesting of topics, but we delved into a lot on not only how you can protect your ears, but how people are doing it in fashionable ways. We also get into the different options for in-ear monitors and finding the right choice for you. Let's get into it.
All right, everybody, and now it is top of the hour. So welcome, everybody, to Tech Tracks 2026 Laguna Room. And our next panel for today is Keep Your Edge with In-Ear Monitors and Hearing Protection. Hearing is the most valuable tool an audio professional has, yet it's often the most overlooked. This panel dives into how sound engineers, producers, and performers use in-ear monitors and hearing protection without sacrificing style, comfort, or audio clarity. To kick off this discussion, please welcome music entrepreneur, brand collaboration strategist, and the president of 80/20 Records, Michael Zimmerlich. Thank you. All right.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I really do appreciate it. How's everyone doing today? I know you guys already applauded, but do it again. I like it. It's Thursday, it's noon, it's lunchtime. Hopefully all you guys have eaten something already, hopefully. Anyways, so as we mentioned, this is Keep Your Edge with In-Ear Monitors and Hearing Protection, and I have a wonderful lineup beside me here, and I'm going to go to my most recent right. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I am Kelly Fox. I own Plug and Play Jewelry. We are a custom jewelry company that specializes in hearing protection attached to jewelry.
Also, Kelly's being a little bit modest. This is her first NAMM, everyone.
Hi, I am Daphne Greene, lead singer guitar player for the band Daphne and the Glitches. I also play in a few other bands in the Phoenix area. I am a game developer, as well as composer, audio engineer, and also do composition for a fantasy audio podcast called Galadric, the Supportive Sage.
And my name is Kocen. I am the founder and owner of Dark Matter Audio Labs. I come from a background of classical music and then audio engineering, both studio and live sound for the last 25 years. I'm super passionate about protecting my own hearing and other people's hearing. So
we're going to jump off of that. Yeah, everyone give applause. I'm going to jump right off of that and talk about hearing protection in general. Obviously, we know that's important, but I know for myself, when I started in the music industry at running a record label, I thought, okay, it never really came to mind. I'm not going to a show every single day. I'm not in a rehearsal space. So I never really thought about having any kind of hearing protection. And anytime I leave a venue, if it's ringing, my ears are ringing, whatever the case is, going, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll just subside itself. Not thinking about the fact that I'm actually doing permanent damage to my ears. And it wasn't until like 6 to 8 years later, and I was at the NAMM Show, and there was a vendor that was doing custom in-ear molds. And I thought, you know what? This is something that I really should be doing. And so, sure enough, I went ahead and got my moldings done and so forth. And ever since then, I will never, ever go to a show without having some sort of hearing protection with me. Unfortunately for me, it was a little bit too late. I have a little bit of tinnitus. Fortunately, it's not terrible, but I really wish I knew ahead of time how important that was to have that with you, and the realization that as soon as you hear that ringing, that's it. You're already done for.
It's there for life.
It's there for life, exactly. So I wanted to ask each of you this question was there a particular moment that you realized, okay, I should be wearing hearing protection now?
Yeah, I started working in the industry really young, and I was super fortunate to have a mentor who immediately, he taught me how to get a photo pass, and the second thing he said to me was, wear earplugs, right? And it really shook me to hear it from this guy. And I think that's why I feel so passionately about getting the message out there, especially to young kids, and to make it something cool and exciting and something to be excited about. And truthfully, like I've worn hearing protection to virtually every show that I've ever worked, but I also work 3 to 5 shows a week. And so even with being so diligent about it, I do have mild tinnitus. And that's not to say that hearing protection doesn't work. I'm just thinking about how much worse it would be if I hadn't started wearing it as a kiddo. So that's why I feel so passionately about it.
I know for me, I have a similar sort of situation to Mike where I was at NAMM. I saw there were custom moldings being done at a brand called Westone. And I'd been playing music in and around music at shows. I knew that I should probably be protecting my ears if I cared about it. So I finally bit the bullet, got myself some custom earplugs, in-ear monitors, and boy, was that life-changing. Going to concerts, even just like on airplanes or in crowded environments where you're just like, I'm overstimulated right now. That was a big deal. However, I'll say more recently, I was in a new project that, let's just say our drummer is a little boisterous and a little louder rehearsal volume than I'm used to. And one day, after that rehearsal, I was like, okay, I escaped it for as many years as I could. It's here to stay. I'm going to take it seriously from here on out. And now it's every rehearsal, earplugs or in-ears, not messing around anymore.
Yeah, I think for me, it was, I was working in recording studios. After college, I went back to school for recording. And then, from that point on, I was, very diligent about protecting my hearing just because of the industry that I was in. And then as I got into doing more, live sound concerts and things, I became very conscious about the mix in the house. Mainly because it's not just my ears, right? But if I'm mixing a show and I've got 1,000 people in the room, well, that's 1,000 people who could walk away with hearing damage. And there were times, I remember one time in particular, we were about to start a show, and there was somebody with a baby, like, standing up by the speaker stacks. And I said, no. I said, you guys got to move that person, or we're not starting the show just because, you can't have a baby in front of the speakers. And so it's just something that's always been with me. And as I got, more into live sound, I did a lot of touring. I think I was fortunate that I toured mostly in like the singer-songwriter realm. And so I was able to mix a lot quieter. But I think a quiet mix mixed well sounds better than a loud mix. Mixed well or not. As I was telling them a minute ago, we all have, our ears have a natural distortion point, right? Where your eardrums just can't take the sound pressure levels and you start to get, the distortion across, your frequency range. And so if you're in a loud concert and, it's pounding at, 105 dB, chances are that you're probably not hearing it as well as you probably could. By this is my experience. I'll keep it in the eye, but by putting earplugs in, I'm able to lower the overall volume that's hitting my own eardrums, and I'm getting a better mix, provided it's mixed well, of course. But I think it also comes into play as what type of hearing protection you're using, because there's your foam plugs, which give you very muffled sound, right? You don't get a lot of highs. Or you could go up to something like Dark Matter uses, which are the EarthtoMoira filters, which were designed to be a very flat frequency response that actually match the impedance of the human ear canal so that you do have a flat frequency response. And so everything sounds the same, it's just quieter. And so for me, it's just a much more pleasant experience. It also keeps the tinnitus at bay. And just the other day, I was doing just a little hearing test on myself, and you know, I'm still good up to like 15K, which is good. I'm like in my late 40s. You know, at some point that will continue to go down, but given my history with all the touring I've done, I think hearing protection, in my case, really is a testament to, use it or lose it, right? And I want to keep my hearing.
Same here.
As long as I can.
Same here. No pun intended. So let me go for this too, because we've been talking quite a bit about specifically at venues, right? But I'm also curious if there are other applications that hearing protection could also be used. So outside of the venue, where else can hearing protection be really useful?
Yard work, construction. Before I started Dark Matter, I was actually working. I was running product development for Automotive, and something that we had different models of the ER series of earplugs. They're called for like home use, right? So if you're mowing the lawn, I mean, your lawnmower's up there, 95 dB. If you got a big yard, or if you got a blower, like a like a leaf blower, those things are loud as heck. And so there are plenty of instances where people probably should be wearing hearing protection but aren't. I think the bigger problem is people, because it's not necessarily an immediate effect as far as like permanent loss goes, people ignore it, and they don't think about it. And I think that we're not, diligent enough to, it's like break the cycle, right? It's like my kids, I make them wear hearing protection, like they understand hearing protection. Before I got into the business, I didn't know. My parents never said I needed to protect my ears, and that I might get tinnitus, and that I might, it wasn't even a thought. And so I didn't care, because I didn't know to care. So I think it's important across the spectrum, especially if you live in a noisy town. If you live in New York City, like, wear your earplugs on the trains. They're loud. I'll sit there sometimes with my dB meter, and I'll see, and with a train stopping, it's hitting 100 dB. It's loud.
Yeah, I think in addition to these dangerously loud environments, there's also a lot of value in just environments that are unpleasantly loud, right? Like
NAMM.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it earlier. There's grocery stores and like outdoor events where you might be going from loud places to quiet places. Like it's just better to have them on you. And when I originally started this company, I really, in my marketing brain, I'm thinking we're exclusively going to concert fans. And the more I sold, the more I realized that was just absolutely not true. We work with cheer moms and band parents and racing enthusiasts and firearms enthusiasts, like really so many applications. I've gotten reviews from people who work at daycares and in like nursing contexts with like sirens going off, right? All of these things that they might be dangerous for very short amounts of time, but it's going to be a lot more pleasant to just have them have hearing protection anyway.
Yeah, I'll definitely second the conventions. I mean, I've definitely used my earplugs at Comic-Con and other type of conventions just because you don't realize if you're in a loud environment with all these people talking and everything's going on and your ears are just, withstanding that for long periods of time, or even, if you're sitting there and loud music is playing for a long time, you're at an outdoor festival even, and it can wear on your ears, and just having something to buffer that helps so immensely. And yeah, I've definitely been in jobs where I'm working around kiddos on the playground, and that can be really loud from time to time. So lots, it's like you're saying, it's just nice to have them, nice to have the option.
Also say, too, that I can understand that in addition to, of course, protecting your hearing to make sure it doesn't get damaged, but also from a mental standpoint as well, for those who may get overstimulated by loud noises, that can help out that as well.
I use my earplugs at restaurants a lot, especially when they're loud. You're trying to talk to people at the table. There's music. They have big, glass walls, and there's people talking everywhere. I find it makes the whole experience more pleasant. I can actually hear what people are saying.
Yeah, I think now that I use earplugs regularly at work and it shows, I have a way lower tolerance for like ambient noises. I can't do it anymore.
I got a question. Who in here uses earplugs on a regular basis?
Oh, that's good to see.
How many of you are musicians? Okay.
Are those the same hands? Was
Yeah.
there a hand that didn't go up twice? I'm not going to call you out that much.
Good. That's great.
I do want to shift gears a little bit to in-ear monitors specifically. So when talking about in-ear monitors, I know a number of venues will have stage monitors that musicians will use. So from your experiences, what are you feel like the main differences between them, especially what are the pros, if you will, for having in-ear monitors and in reference to just using the stage monitor that's in front of you?
I mean, I'll say the first thing is fidelity. With an in-ear monitor, you're able to, no pun intended, but better isolate the different elements of your mix, and you're better able to hone in on specific elements that you want. Whereas with a stage wedge, if you've got, you have a wedge here, but if you've got your guitar player who's cranked up to 11, you still might have trouble with that wedge, right? You can't put I say you can't put a good mix into a wedge. You can't put like a high fidelity mix into a wedge, right? And so first and foremost, it's fidelity, right? Second to that is you don't have to have it as loud. Now, do people follow that? Oftentimes they don't. We get people that are like, well, I can't get these loud enough. And it's like, well, it's kind of not the point. Again, it goes to that, distortion at your eardrum and being able to, lower the volume, get a cleaner mix, have a better experience, and have a longer career, right? I mean, that's a big piece of it too, the longer career.
Yeah, I know. For me, there was that initial sort of hurdle that I think a lot of musicians struggle with, where it's like, yeah, but I want to feel it. I want to, what is it, in A Star Is Born? That sort of like, no, I want to be on stage. I want to, yes, I understand that to a degree. I mean, I've been to plenty of big shows where you see the person pop the ear out for a moment just to be like, okay, I'm in it, whatever. But like you're saying, the fidelity, and also say you're a musician like myself who loves to run around the stage and go say hi to the bass player, go say hi to the drummer. Your wedge is stationary. So you're taking that fidelity wherever you go on stage. It is not, changing based on where you're standing, which is a big deal. How many
of you in here use in-ears on stage? How many of you prefer wedges over them?
Oh, we got one.
Hey, some people do. I work with Roseanne Cash and John Leventhal, and John will not use in-ears. He refuses. He wants to hear his amp behind him. He wants to, he just wants to be able to hear it. He listens to the room a lot. Roseanne's one of those that has one in and one out. She has a wedge in an ear, which I don't recommend for anybody because that just, then you get like, turn this up, turn this up, turn this up, turn this up. Trying to balance the two out. But some people just don't, they can't do it. Some people just don't want to. They're can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? I think also though there are things that can help that, right? Ambience, right? You have ambient models that allow a certain amount of the stage volume in. which is good for people. You obviously you have the opportunity for, if you have a monitor engineer, you've got ambient mics you can use, audience mics you can use, to try and bring the show kind of back inside, right? Because it could be hard trying to put out that energy. Well, let me say this: if you're on a stage, how many of you have been on a stage and the audience just sucks? It's just a dead audience, and it's like, how hard is it to really put that energy out there if you're not getting anything back, right? And so when you put in in-ears, like, it gets pretty quiet, and that could also, kind of, a lot of people just don't feel the energy anymore, because they don't feel the room as much. And so by using ambience, by using ambient mics, you can bring some of that back. You can't bring it all back, but you also can't bring your hearing back if you lose it. So there's the trade-off.
I will say, too, somebody who I tend to have very small ear canals. So anytime I do anything that's in-ear, it'll irritate it. So I know for myself, whenever I wear headphones, they're always over the ear for that exact reason. So I can understand where some people may feel uncomfortable with in-ear monitors for that reason, but same thing, and as well as hearing protection. That's why also I haven't worn hearing protection for so long. And I used to get swimmer's ear like crazy as a kid. So I don't ever like to put things in my ears like that. But first of all, hearing protection, I got over it because there was no other no other choice in that matter. But also I could say the same thing for in-ear monitors too, that after a while your body will start to get used to that as well. But I can see that also being an opposition, if you will, to having a wedge in comparison to having some sort of in-ear monitors.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I think, can be an adjustment period if you're used to hearing it through wedges and switching to in-ears. And it might take a few times to kind of dial in what your mix needs to be to give you the energy and, what you need to hear. But I can say, as someone who recently has been, trying to transition all of my projects to in-ears, once you get it, it's really, really nice.
How about the rest of you? Do you find that especially when you're starting to wear hearing protection specifically, did it feel like it was bothering your ears a little bit, so forth, or didn't bother you at all, or you went, all right, well, I'm going to deal with this because my hearing's more important than feeling itchy?
I mean, for me, it's, silicone earplugs, silicone tips on anything. I think, like you, I have pretty funky ear canals. And so my ears get irritated pretty quickly. I can tolerate it, but I don't like it. Of course, you get a pair of custom. If anybody's ever had a pair of customs in here, it's like there's no going back.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's, people sometimes balk at the cost of them, but what you're getting for that cost, provided you don't lose them, Kelly has a solution for that. They're worth their weight in gold, really.
Yeah, I think it is, like you were saying, it's a matter of finding the right version for you, whether it's a different style of tip, a different size. I also have tiny baby ears, and I have that problem as well. And we get a lot of requests for child sizes from full-grown adults. It seems like that is a common issue that folks are having. A pro tip that I got from an audiologist a couple years back, for those worried about sound fidelity at shows in terms of an audience perspective, is to go ahead and throw your earplugs in 10 minutes before you're expecting the show to start. Because when you put the earplugs in at first, your brain is kind of telling you hey, this isn't what this normally sounds like. We should be worried about it. And it can kind of be distracting even if you're not consciously thinking about it. After about 10 minutes, your brain kind of gets used to having them in, and it's not going to send off those signals anymore. So I think that could be useful for probably in-ears and hearing protection too.
Yeah. I have a question. Does anybody in here wear earplugs while they're performing? Yeah? That's okay. That's good.
At least you're wearing something. So, speaking of wearing, I know we're still talking about some customizations. I do want to talk about the visual elements, because both Dark Matter as well as Plug and Play, you have incredible designs, which we'll also show you some examples. But to me, you think of hearing protection and even in-ear monitors as probably one of the last things that you would want to pay attention to the design of. So I would like to ask each of you these questions of where that essentially that inspiration came from to make these essentially more than just the functionality of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of at the core of what we do is personalization and customization, because hearing protection adoption is tricky, right? We all have a million reasons not to wear it. We forgot it at home. It looks ugly. It doesn't work with my outfit, right? It's not comfortable. I lost it. I dropped it on the ground. So many reasons. So I think we as a company and like me as a person, I want to solve as many of those pain points as possible, right? And so if something can look exactly the way that you want it and something that you can get excited about and that's part of your outfit, you're going to be way more likely to remember it and way more excited to use it.
And I have some examples, by the way, if you want to talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the other things is we have a huge variety of jewelry styles because everyone has such different anatomy when it comes to their ears, and especially when we're talking about piercings. And when I first started, I really thought, we need to find like our silver bullet item where like this is what everybody wants and it's going to be perfect for everyone. I've learned that's very much not the correct approach. Like people first of all, want to feel like their piece is made for them. Like it's custom, it's their favorite pieces. But also, again, with anatomy, right? Like even folks with stretched ears, for example, might like this clicker style hoop, or they might want a French wire, just based on like how thin they want that wire to be. All based on preferences, right? And I found it's not about identifying the perfect thing. It's about having the perfect thing for as many people as possible.
And do you find for yourself too that is it gender wide? It goes back and forth for these? Because I don't wear jewelry, whether I'm guy or not. Like I don't wear jewelry at all. But like do you find that you get a combination of male, female, mixed of genders?
Absolutely. That was something that really surprised me when we started was just how many men we sell to, because I'm thinking this is a jewelry product, this is for the girlies, they're just not going to be interested at all. And that's very much not the case, especially when you do have this custom setup where they can get exactly what they want. They feel like it's made for them, which is not necessarily how they're being served in the market right now.
Tyler, you want to talk about
Sure.
I'll bring that up on here too. We'll go
So
back here.
we make custom in-ear monitors, right? So it's not just custom to your ear canal, of course, but you can customize them with faceplates and colors. I think the being able to customize your in-ears, goes back as far as in-ears have been around. There are some artists who they want, skin tone, or they want clear, like they don't want anybody to see them. And then there's other people who don't. Some people want, rhinestones and sapphire crystals, and so we offer, everything from, stone to crushed fire opal to cool glitters and, to like your standard, kind of black and white, beige, everything. So okay, this is audience participation here. I like talking
please.
to the audience.
That's always more fun that way.
Yeah. Who in here prefers like the the plain Jane in-ears? No? Okay.
No, got one.
Who likes
There's no judgment in this room.
No,
who likes them
That's
blinged
fun.
out? All right. You should come by our booth.
There you go.
11028.
See, that
All right.
actually answered the question, right? There were so many more hands that raised that actually they want to see something like this in their in-ears.
It's personalization, right? It's
Yeah.
like people we're humans, right? We're like crows. We like shiny things. What's up?
Can you bling out a different manufacturer?
No. We can't. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you can come and get ours. We'll bling them out for you.
Did you say your booth number?
11028, Hall A.
I think that's a great point you bring up about like the minimalist versus maximalist. Like there definitely is a sector for the plain, but for the most part, it is all about the bling and what you can do.
I want to talk about that too because there's the personal perspective, right? So you have, in the case specifically with plug and play, where you are attending a show and so forth and have your hearing protection and you want to have that matching your outfit style or the type of event that you're going to and so forth. It becomes essentially a fashion piece, right? So there's that, but then there's also, in addition to that, the artist perspective of having that up on stage, whether it's in-ear monitors or hearing protection in general. So actually, I'm going to have Daphne, you go ahead and start with this one, is talk about, again, the importance of being able to personalize these different types of products to you as an artist.
Absolutely. And, not only for each individual, but like for me, I've got multiple projects, and each project has a very different vibe. So, maybe there's one where I want it to blend into the back. Maybe, for Daphne and the Glitches, maybe I want hot pink. Maybe I want gold and, something shiny. I know that, when I got my first custom in-ears and earplugs, the fact that I was able to pick my colors, got little trans flag earplugs. I thought that was super cute and fun and a way of expressing yourself, on stage, part of your visual brand. Because for me, if I can make it pink, I'm going to try to.
I think the customization also allows you as a brand to stand out, right? Like we as Plug and Play have our own personal style that's coming from me as a designer and a fashion girly, and Dark Matter, I'm sure, also has their own branding and kind of signature pieces and a line that makes sense for all of you, and I think it really helps us stand out in that way.
And Kelly, too, also mentioned that you've done artist collaborations on the higher level, too, so not only as a representation for the artist to acquire, but also done collaborations for their fans as well that also would represent their brand.
Absolutely, yeah. We do wholesaling where we can, fully customize the product for an artist, client, or nonprofit or whatever. We can print your logo on our little carrying case. We can put branded charms, whatnot. And the feedback that we've gotten from artists is, first of all, they sell really well because they're at venues already, and that's where people need them. Your earplugs do you no good at CVS when you're already at the show. So getting them into more areas where people actually need them and use them has been crucial. And I think the bands like that it's a good look for them. They outwardly care about their fans and their hearing and keeping them around and going to shows on a long-term basis. It's kind of a PR move in a sense.
And the other thing, too, as I'll point out, is that you can have this for both your in-ears as well as your hearing protection. Because the way I see it, too, you're on stage, you either are wearing earplugs, which I'm so glad to see so many raise your hands about, or you're having some sort of in-ear monitors of some sort, too. So if you're obviously having your in-ear monitors, you don't need your hearing protection at that point. But then, okay, well, what happens when you're off the stage? Are you staying around at the venue? Especially for, checking out the other artists that are playing, which you should be. And so there's also that aspect of it as well, is that you still are presenting yourself even when you're off the stage. And now having put in your hearing protection, you can keep that branding going with having some sort of stylized hearing protection.
Absolutely. And each little thing like that, Plug and Play is a perfect example. You're walking around after a show, you're hanging out, having a drink, pop in your Plug and Plays, and someone goes, hey, those are really cool. That's a conversation starter. That's an easy way to connect with someone by expressing yourself and then getting to talk about it.
So I do want to open up to some Q&A. We've been talking quite a bit. So yes, you made it 2 seconds before you gentlemen, and we'll get to you.
I have a question actually specific for you.
Yes.
And it has to do with the custom molded monitors. I used to have those. I don't now. And I literally saw a company a couple days ago advertising that their monitors are so good that they'll essentially mold to you over time. It's a universal mold. You don't have to get the custom mold. I'm curious how you see that from a hearing protection standpoint.
Obviously don't know the brand specifically, and I can't attest to them as far as making that claim is concerned. I will say this, is that I've tried both just regular hearing plugs, foam, non-foam, silicone base, as well as customs. And I will say that the customs were definitely no question. I mean, they're designed to fit your ear canal and also were designed with specific filters. So that was by far the most effective. However, I will say that what I discovered with the customs, though, was that over time my ear canal changed. And so it wasn't fitting as well as it was in the past. So you may have to get new ones in the future for that reason. So that's the only thing about the customs that I discovered, at least personally for myself. But I still feel strongly that is by far the most effective. But I will also use whatever I can get my hands on. Like on me right now is just a general silicone, but I like to say that's my Band-Aid. It's like, it's on me all times, at least I have something with me, but it's not the ideal situation. For something like that where maybe it will mold to your ear over a period of time, I mean, maybe, but I would be very curious about something like that, but also the same token, how long would it take for it to actually start molding to your ear? Is it fairly quickly? How often do you need to use it? For myself, as somebody who is more on the representation side, I'm not wearing them too often. I'm not wearing them every single day or even once a week. It's really when I am going to be specifically at shows, right? So it just depends upon how often I'm going to be doing that. And so for me personally, I would want something that relatively fits right away in my ears, something that is as most comfortable as possible, that is just lowering down that decibel level. That's ideal for myself, because also somebody who is going to shows, and this is true for artists as well, I want to talk to people in the audience, and just start mingling and talking not only to the artists, but their representation, or talk to the people that are working in the venue. And that's hard to do when you have like regular plugs in and all you hear is, right? So, so for me specifically, I like the customs for that reason. But honestly, like even just regular earplugs too. I mean, I'll just get my hands on whatever I possibly can get. But those are my personal opinion about those things. The thing is, like, I just don't know their claims specifically how that exactly would work.
I'll chime in here and just say that there's nothing like a custom. If you've worn customs, you will not find a universal that fits as well. And not only is it the fit, with a custom, you're actually physically coupling to your ear, and so you get a more holistic sound. I guess probably the wrong word I'm using, but with a tip, if you're using an ear tip, you're actually losing some of those vibrations to the ear tip. You're getting a little bit of the kind of the, especially with models that have bone conduction, but you're getting that physical coupling to your ear, and plus it is not going to fall out unless you have a bad fit. They will stay in there. They are locked in your concha lock. They are locked in your ear canal. I'll give $10,000 to somebody who comes up with a true custom universal, because that would be the holy grail of in-ears, and I don't believe anybody's come up with that yet.
Yeah, a couple of years back, I tried something that I picked up at CVS, and I think the brand was Decibels, not to plug the competition, but it was like a molded, like you throw it in the microwave in a glass of water type bead, almost like a mouth guard, and then mold it to your ear, and I really did like them. They were good.
I think that's what's so great about having so many options that is available, because everyone has different priorities on what they're looking for. Personally, for myself, I'm not looking to, look at me, I'm not blinging myself out here. So I go for more functional than anything else. So whatever is the most convenient for me or the most effective, that's what I'm going to be going for. For other people, they want maybe to have something that's a little bit more stylish to themselves. And so that's why I think it's so wonderful that there are so many options that are out there, because everyone's needs or wants are going to be different. I believe you had a question?
A while back, I used to use like headset microphones so that I could navigate easier on stage and use my hands, express and stuff. I've been interested in in-ear monitors, more for accuracy and performance. But is it better to have it separate from the monitors? Like, I'm wondering if I'm in the market for some in-ear monitors. It's good to have a headset with that.
A headset with in-ear monitors Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can use sure, you could use a Countryman mic, a little over-ear mic with your in-ears. I believe one of my competitors has a microphone they're showing at the show here. I won't tell you who it is. You got to find him. You're going to have to find him.
Yes, over here. I'll get to you in a second.
For your in-ears, when it comes to the decibel type kind of side of things, whenever it comes to where is kind of too loud for the actual in-ear side?
That's a good question. Once you get above like 85, 90 decibels, up from there, like that's where you start, and I wish I knew the numbers off the top of my head, but, I think at 90 dB after 4 hours, you can start having, hearing damage. In fact, fun fact, or not so fun fact, a lot of dental hygienists have hearing loss because of the dental drills that they use for 8 hours every day. And they're not super loud, but they're loud enough that they're doing it for 8 hours every day, 40 hours a week, and they develop hearing damage from that. The higher you go from there, and I'm not even talking about in-ears, I'll get to that. But the louder you go from there, the exponentially it goes down in time that you can that you're supposed to be exposed to it. When you get into in-ears, it's a little different because you're not putting the speaker over here. You're putting the speaker like this far from your eardrum, so you are getting like, it's like intravenous audio. And so that, you have to be careful. And there are people that get in-ears and they want to crank them up and, they might be doing more damage than they do with wedges. I don't know if there's ever been any studies on that, but, part of the point of in-ears is to be able to listen quieter and protect your hearing. Yeah, I had another thought, but I lost it.
I believe you had a question?
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask more about custom in-ears. So far, we have spoken about the outside and the cosmetic looks of custom in-ears. But what I wanted to ask is the inside of the custom in-ears, like the drivers.
Yeah.
How do we select, like 2 drivers better for me, 3 drivers, 4, 6?
So it's funny. It's a misconception that I like to say more drivers does not mean more better. I speak to, and I don't mean this in a negative way. Like I speak to a lot of monitor engineers who just don't know. And I didn't know before I got into this business that I always thought the same thing, like more drivers is more better. Driver count is more about, sensitivity, right? I mean, there is more speakers, it's more louder. It's also a tool for the acoustic engineer to be able to manipulate the sound signature, right? Because there's very few levers within an in-ear monitor that you can pull outside of, putting some resistors on, changing tube diameters, that kind of thing. But if you want a lot more bass, really you got to add more bass drivers, right? You got to add more low end. If you want more headroom, more drivers can be better. I think the anything over like 5 drivers is in a lot of ways unnecessary for fidelity. Once you get to like a 3-way system, you're not, it's the law of diminishing marginal returns, right? It's not that much better to go to a 27 driver earphone. In fact, the more drivers you introduce, the more phasing issues you introduce. And so there's a lot of things, acoustically there as well that cause a lot of trouble. So, really what you have to do is listen. The problem is it's hard to, we connect with a lot of bands. Actually, I'll say this. I've been in this business for 25 years, and I got my first pair of in-ears in, I think it was like 2006 or 7. And the ones I got were, I didn't hear them. I said, what should I get? They said, get these. Okay, cool. How many of you in here who have in-ears listened to them before you bought them? Yeah,
Only a few.
Yeah, because it's hard. It's hard to, like we connect with a lot of bands that come through. So I live in Dallas. We have our, one person's in Denver. I got another person in Chicago. And so when bands come through, we'll go and meet them, at the show, so they can actually listen and they can choose the model. Because you can't really just choose it based on driver count. You really have to hear it, kind of know what's best for you. I have always said, like, you could probably take all of the in-ears from all the companies here at NAMM, put them all on a table. They're all usable, but it's really what's best for you, right? And really you have to listen to be able to ascertain that. And it's not easy because, with a custom, they have to make a universal. And a lot of the brands, I won't name anybody, but a lot of the brands out there, the universals they use to demo their customs don't sound like their customs. And because, again, it's like you're going from a universal or a custom to a universal, you have different bore sizes, you have different tube lengths, like all that stuff matters. And it's not easy mechanically to do that, to make that transition. So
I want to add to that actually too, is that one of the wonderful things about being at the NAMM show is the fact that you have so many opportunities to try out products that you normally would not be able to try out. And we literally saw in this room, only 2 people raised their hands when I mentioned specifically about in-ear monitors. Well, they're all here. You can try them. You can try them out here and test things out and see what you like and that you don't like. So that's one of the wonderful things about having something like the NAMM show is the ability to try out these products before you go ahead and make a purchase.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll chime in a little bit too. Is just basically exactly what you're saying is it is going to come down to your unique situation. What are you listening for? Are you a vocalist listening for mids? Are you a bassist who really just needs to hear the rhythm section? Like depending on what you're doing is really going to be a big deciding factor on that sort of thing. And
I'll say we do, and other brands do as well, but make models, that we say are better for bass players, better for drummers, better for vocalists. When we tune things, we tune them based on experience and what people want. And so that's also another, barometer you can use to say, well, like you could talk to a brand and say, well, what do you recommend for a vocalist or what do you recommend for a drummer? Because they will have, different options for that. I've always said this for years now, and maybe I'll do it one of these days. I want to, just to try and get away from like, the more drivers, more better. I wanted to make 5 different models of IEMs. Opaque, don't tell anybody what's in them. And then have just call it the drummer, the bass player, the guitarist, and really, and work with, for each model, work with a bunch of musicians that are using it, in situ, and be able to really tune it to what a musician on stage really wants, right? Work with 10 different bass players to really get that model. And then it makes the decision easy, right? Because then it's like you're not going, well, how many drivers is it? You just go like, oh, cool, that one's for bass players, and all of these bass players helped make it. So that's the one I should probably get. One of these days, maybe I'll do it. But.
It's the Pepsi challenge for in-ears.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, right.
I think we have time for maybe one more question. So, yes.
What options do you have for plug and play for people who don't have pierced ears?
Yeah, that's a big one. Who here has their ears pierced? Yeah, so not
a handful.
Too many. Yeah, and non-piercing options are really tricky because there's not a great way to affix it to the ear without pinching or keeping it really secure. So we have some really cool ear cuffs. We have a new guy that kind of slips over the helix. It kind of looks like a fake industrial piercing almost. So we're really excited about that and getting it to more people that these non-piercing options, it widens the audience quite a bit.
Any other questions? We may be able to squeeze one more in. No? Okay, so before we end, I'll give everyone the quick, we got 2 minutes left. So I'll ask each of you this question. I ask this question to my guests on my podcast all the time, which is, if you're only able to give one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be? And Tal, I'm going to start with you.
For anything? For life?
However you want to interpret that question, go ahead.
Oh, geez. One piece of advice: be nice to people. That's it.
It's
Be
good
cool.
advice.
Be cool. Don't be an asshole.
Just because this is how I'm feeling, my advice is similar to this question this gentleman asked about the drivers. Is every situation is going to probably be different. Your individual needs are going to be different. Your what you're using a piece of gear, whether it be in-ear monitors, a guitar, strings, picks, whatever. Find a thing that's right for you. Listen. Don't get too caught up in, well, I don't like this brand, or, follow your heart. Find the thing that works for you, that speaks to you, that is gonna express your, what you do the best. And you'll probably be doing the right thing.
Mine is wear your earplugs.
Good advice.
Yeah, no worries, always. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the NAMM.